So let me ask you, who is the Onyx RCR really for? That's coming right up. Hey everyone, my name is Rick Cordero. Welcome to RunPlayBack, where we help you with video and tech tips to lead a more efficient and affordable lifestyle. Let's be creative and save money at the same time. Today we're talking about the Onyx RCR electric motorbike, one of the most popular and controversial e-bikes out right now. From its moped-inspired design aesthetic to the massive modding community, Onyx introduced this bike to a new market that craves more power without compromising style. Despite this success, Onyx has been a magnet for drama, with rumors of internal strife and instability within the company. In this video, we'll discuss the features and let you know whether the Onyx RCR is worth the price. And while you will see a few mods we did to the bike, we'll do a thorough breakdown of what we did and share a few links of Onyx modding resources in the next video. And just a reminder, our goal is to always be unbiased and transparent with our opinions. This video is not endorsed or sponsored by Onyx, so let's get to it. So our modded 52-volt Super 73 Z1 is a very accessible bike. It's affordable, lightweight, nimble, and a bike that you could share with all of your friends and family as a gateway into the e-bike hobby. The Onyx RCR is kind of the opposite of that. It's expensive, it's heavy, and it's something you probably wouldn't just let anyone ride unless you have insurance on it. Even when my friend Miranda showed it to me in person, I was kind of intimidated to ride it, but that's kind of the point. It's not for everyone. Buying an Onyx takes a certain level of financial patience, technical acumen, and riding ability that you either already have or need to grow into and sustain. If that sounds like you, then the Onyx RCR is one of the most thrilling electric vehicles you'll ever ride. Shipping. So like we said, from payment date to delivery, it took about 4 months. As we got closer to our shipping date, Onyx underwent a massive PR nightmare as cryptic posts and announcements signaling the demise of the company began to ignite rumors on Reddit and Facebook. While they seem to be stable as of today, many of their most ardent supporters and modders now have a very cautious relationship with the brand. For us, we just wanted to get our bike shipped, and 3 days later, it finally did. Once it got into the shipping carrier's possession, it took another 33 days for delivery. So before we get to the specs, let's see what the delivery looked like. All right, so we have our delivery from Haul Bikes. Haul Bikes actually transports 50,000 bikes across the country. Their hub is in Wisconsin, and we've been waiting for our bike for about 33 days now. It's a pretty big trailer. Also, their system is designed to transport bikes as safely as possible. That means minimizing the amount of loading and unloading, like basically loading the bikes in the order that they're delivered. So there's just a minimum amount of like shifting and things like that. I also assume that they're stored in a climate controlled facility, so the batteries are protected. And there it is. So what we're going to do next is kind of go over the bike, make sure that it's kind of what we ordered, and then we sign off on it.
Look it over for any damage.
Okay.
And then I've got to take a video of it before
Got
we
it.
do anything with it.
Yep. We'll do a little walk around, see if there's anything that stands out to us in terms of any damage. Tires look good. Headlight, display. Nothing that stands out to us, so yeah, this looks good to us.
I just need a signature and date there and an email address here so I can send you a copy of the inspection.
Yep. Today is the 24th?
RunPlayBack.com. Okay. There you are.
All right. All right. Thank you, sir. All right. That's a lot heavier than I thought. So from payment to delivery, it took about 117 days or nearly 4 months. That kind of financial patience is not for everyone, since a lot can happen in 4 months. People move, have kids, change jobs, or experience some other major life event that can alter their ability to have nearly $5,000 to $6,000 tied up in an electric bike. You'll find all kinds of arguments online about the value of every popular e-bike that's out there. Some people even become spec warriors, asserting their unprompted financial opinions on someone else's purchase. The reality is that getting something like an Onyx RCR is a major lifestyle choice and not an investment. A lot of the shade that's thrown at Onyx comes from its reputation as being a bike heavily promoted by young tech bros who have little regard for other brands outside of Onyx. While some of that is true, there is a contingent of Onyx owners who are really mature and love sharing their innovations within the hobby, regardless of anyone else's lifestyle choices. And yes, this is simply a hobby. One thing to remember is that, like cars, e-bikes are not investments. They depreciate each time you ride. Spending over $5K on an electric bike is like buying a new car. It's an ego thing. It's for people that want to flex that their income is kind of disposable, and that's okay. We're not judging that. But the real value of a product like this depends on the lifestyle of the owner. If you're like us and have intermediate DIY experience, a full set of tools, a large amount of storage space, and live near a downtown area, the Onyx is actually a reasonable purchase. But we would never call it an investment. It's a lifestyle choice that we're fortunate and grateful to afford. Now, before we get into our first ride, let's go over the specs. The Onyx RCR is a 5,400 peak watt e-bike with a top speed of over 50 miles per hour. It's powered by a 72 volt, 23 amp hour battery that weighs about 25 pounds. The total weight of the bike is about 150 pounds. As far as components go, the Onyx has front and rear suspension, a hydraulic front brake and mechanical rear brake, a half-twist throttle, 17-inch wheels, an integrated halo headlight, taillight, and a large LED display. We ordered the SHRTY DRT kit, which came with a 3-inch lowered fork and rear suspension, DRT tires, headlight grille, fork dust covers, rear rack, and front and rear fenders. The kit gives it a very aggressive look and is suitable for off-road riding. So now that we've covered the specs, let's take it out for a ride. All right, we're gonna do our first ride with the Onyx RCR. We did want to put a few mods before we did our first test ride. Very simple ones, just some pedals, just cosmetic. The mirrors were actually important for safety. I wouldn't recommend riding this without any mirrors. And then just a decal, this Onyx decal that I got made. So yeah, let's try it out. It does feel heavier. I mean, I think this is double the weight of my Super 73 Z1. I charged the battery a little bit, so I have some juice in here. Right now, I have it on normal mode. I think normal is what I'd actually be using for everyday use. Yeah, so let's just try it out on this block. We'll see how it feels. Okay, so definitely a lot of pickup, way more torque than I've ever been used to. Yeah, that is pretty serious. The handling is a little bit different because it's a little bit heavier, but yeah, that initial torque is really quite a rush. You kind of have to like really tuck in quickly to kind of get a handle on the bike. I really haven't had rear suspension before, so that's something that I just got to get used to. It's a heavier bike, so I'm feeling kind of, you know, the weight being distributed through the springs, so that's a little bit different. I don't think I have the same amount of turning in the radius as my Z1, so that just means I have to make kind of wider turns and predict, you know, how much space I have on a turn. If you're looking for your first e-bike, this might not be the one. You might want to start on a Super 73. I'm glad that I started on the Z1 because I kind of already have an idea on how to handle this thing. Make sure that you know what you're getting into before you buy an Onyx. You know, I think if you've never owned an e-bike before, really reconsider starting on a different level before you get to this. But I think this is gonna be really fun to ride. I think it's a companion to the Z1. I don't think it's a replacement. I don't think there's a one bike that rules them all, that I think maybe a lot of people fall into to justify the amount that they pay for their bike. So they just think like, this is the best bike for everyone, and that's not really true. Just something to think about. So now let's take it out on the streets and really give some feedback on the very specific details, from performance to top speed to the comfort level. In terms of looks, the steel tube frame is moped inspired, with its signature aluminum side panels and mahogany battery cover, which does stand out amongst the many scrambler-style e-bikes out right now. We do like how the triangular shape of the battery chassis matches the angles of the steel frame, giving it a sleek, futuristic aesthetic. The swing arm is made from heavy-duty steel and creates a level ride on most terrain. Above it, the padded seat is comfortable and form-fitting for most riders. On first glance, it looks like a small motorcycle, which may or may not be a good thing depending on where you live. The LED display is basic, but gives you all the data you need, like remaining battery life, time, speed setting, and distance traveled. Range is marketed by Onyx as 75 miles on economy mode, and much less on normal and sport modes. So now let's take the Onyx RCR out on the streets. So the first thing we're going to talk about is the performance. Now there are 3 riding modes: economy, normal, and sport. Right now I'm in normal. Economy mode I think tops you out at about 20 miles per hour, but it really feels too sluggish for this kind of bike. Normal mode is nice. It gives you a little bit of speed limiting, but still gives you that torque when you need it, which is like how I like to ride. I like to be able to kind of hit 35 miles per hour if I need to, but also be slow enough to be more responsive in traffic. Now the torque is really nice on this. The torque is the rotation force generated by the motor and transferred to the wheel. And the Onyx is really notable for how much torque it has off the line. Although the motor is rated for 3,000 watts, it does feel like it's putting out almost twice the amount. And you feel it for sure. So I think that's just how the controller is set up and the settings are set up. Now you can actually change the controller settings in the Kelly controller. John Angel, if you check out his blog, he has a ton of information on how to change those settings. Now the comfort is really nice. I have the SHRTY version of the RCR, so it slams the bike about 3 inches lower, giving it a better center of gravity. And although the bike is heavy, it handles like a moped, so it feels fine for me. The wheels are about 17 inches by 3 inches, and the DRT knobby tires are really good for off-road riding. The stock suspension is fine. I know people actually change the stock suspension, but for my weight and I guess the settings that it's dialed into from the factory, it's fine. I also weigh only 127 pounds, so it's not a big deal, right? Going up this dirt road here, a lot of gravel. I'm trying not to slide out, but it's taking the gravel pretty good. I have the knobby tires on, so it's handling it well. Now going on these inclines makes me a little bit nervous, so I'm gonna go a little bit slower. So I don't want to slide out. It's a little bit wet. Okay. So we have the speedometer recording. So next we're going to do a little bit of a speed test. We're going to switch this on to sport mode. Just want to try to find a good spot to do this in. Obviously, we want to make sure there's not a lot of traffic here. So the top speed is marketed as 60 miles per hour on sport mode. A lot of people have said that's not true. So right now we have about 79.2 volts on the battery. I have my GPS speedometer running here. All right. Get around this curve. All right, there's a biker up ahead, but let's see if we could see what we can get here. So I got up to about 50. Not sure if I'm doing anything wrong here, but I think I'm only getting about 50 miles per hour. Started getting a little bit wobbly back there. Yeah. So the top speed is, yeah, I don't think I can get past 50. I was holding down the throttle too for a while. Let's turn back. So that's not a big deal for me. I'm not really someone who would actually be riding it that fast. I don't really need to ride it that fast where I live, so it's all good. That definitely felt pretty sweet though. It's a little nerve-wracking, but if you know what you're doing and you know, kind of keep your eyes on the road, you should be good. I think the sweet spot for me is going to be something like 35 miles, 40 miles, something like that. I think I'd feel pretty comfortable. Now the bike does draw a lot of attention, and that may or may not be good for the type of riding that you do. I'm in the city, so I can ride through traffic and it's not a big deal. And you know, out here where it's a little more chill, no one's gonna really make a big deal out of it unless I'm doing something stupid. But your mileage may vary on whether this is the kind of bike for you. I think overall, coming from the 52 volt Super 73 Z1, the Onyx is way more powerful. It's a much more powerful e-bike. It's really much more like an electric moped. So that means that it requires more experience in riding and more situational awareness. You know, I am more aware that I look like a small motorcycle. So, you know, I ride accordingly. I think this bike was worth the wait. It was probably the hardest thing was like waiting for this bike to arrive. I think I closed my house in a quicker time than getting this bike, you know. So that's something that a lot of people may have an issue with, having your money tied up. For me, nearly 4 months. But I expected that. You know, the money that I had saved up for this was not anything that I actually needed. And I also, you know, again, this is not an investment. So this was money that, for the most part, I knew that I was willing to lose. So it is what it is. And I don't think it really replaces my Z1. I think it complements it in a lot of nice ways, because really this is something that, you know, I've tried. You know, I kind of rode it on some bike trails and, you know, got some funny looks and whatnot. I'm in a pretty chill city, so I definitely feel like I stand out more. Whereas with the Z1, I was a little bit more covert. So that's just something to think about. For the version that I got, the SHRTY version, I really like it. I think it definitely fits my size and my weight. I think the best thing about this bike, though, is that you can do so many cool mods to it. A lot of people are doing cool stuff with the Super 73 and modding their bikes, and it's kind of similar but different in a lot of ways, because there's, you know, just everything on the Onyx is a little bit bigger, right? The controller is bigger, there's more wires, you know, the frame is thicker, the battery is heavier, so it's like modding the Super 73, just you're like in a bigger bike. So here's what we like about the Onyx RCR. It's a fun bike to ride and even more fun to mod and accessorize. Riding this bike is unlike any other experience we've had before. It's an interesting combination of classic and modern moped parts that Onyx has chosen which all seem to work together seamlessly if you know what you're doing, that is. I'm not a big guy and I only weigh 127 pounds. Most Onyx riders are much heavier than me, so the power to weight ratio is much higher for someone in my weight class. It's not about if I'll fit the bike, it's will the bike fit me. Ordering the SHRTY version and making a few modifications, which we'll get into in the next video, has made the Onyx RCR a very enjoyable riding experience. But let's talk about the elephant in the room. Is Onyx a reputable company? Without diving too much into the drama, that answer depends on your level of risk associated with supporting a startup company. And while there is consumer protection depending on how you pay, it's more about having your money tied up in a company that's not always transparent. For those who are looking for an out-of-the-box e-bike without having any interest in DIY, this may not be the bike for you. But with a very strong modding community, the Onyx can easily be diagnosed and self-serviced if you do the research and like getting your hands dirty. Those who come from a DIY background are used to this. Those looking for instant gratification will be severely disappointed unless they have the cash to hire someone else to do all the DIY work. In our next video, we'll go over a few of the modifications we made and share links and shoutouts to all the sources that are pushing the Onyx RCR into new territory. So if you're looking for an electric moped with lots of style, power, and a strong modding community, the Onyx RCR is a solid recommend. Now we'll still have plenty of Super 73 content as the Onyx complements our 52-volt Z1 and doesn't replace it. If you want to dive into more video and tech tips, click the links on the side and remember to like and subscribe so we can help you find tech deals that fit your lifestyle. We'll see you guys in the next video.